Good afternoon. Welcome to Dumb SEO Questions, episode 167. Each week we meet to answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+. With us tonight we have Chase Rayner. Chase is an SEO on the, I think it's the west coast of the USA. You can find Chase at reliablecomputerhelp.com. David Rosam is in the far south of the United Kingdom. David is a copywriter of 30-odd years standing and an SEO copywriter for the last 12. You can find David at writingforseo.org. And Duchelle De Leon is also an SEO, strangely enough. Duchelle is located in the Philippines, and shortly she promises me a website URL I can hand over. Micah Fisher-Kirshner is Senior SEO Manager for Zendesk.com in the United States. He's also located on the west coast of the USA. Tim Capper is a conversion rate optimization specialist and SEO, and he is located in the north of England, the frozen wastelands. And you can find Tim at onlineownership.com. Somehow or other, I missed Masataki Wasa amongst that. Masataki is webmaster of wasaweb.net. He's also a Google top contributor on the AdSense and also the Google Plus help community. Masataki can be located at wasaweb.net, wasaweb.net. And I should have mentioned that Tim Capper is a top contributor in the Google My Business forum. And William Rock, you're a Google top contributor too. Which community?
I'm focused in web search.
Okay. William is a Google top contributor in web search, and he's also, can you give me the URL that you can be contacted on, please, mate?
Yes, it's williamrock.com.
I won't forget that now. All right, so we've got, Dan tells me we've got 7 questions, 1 news item tonight, and he said not many, but there are some intriguing questions. The first one, it shouldn't be too hard for us. Does opening a link in a new window affect SEO? Cindy Coughlin said, this is a dumb question, but here goes. I am contracting for a Fortune 500 company in content. Brackets, SEO expert, I am not. That's fair enough too, Cindy. None of us are here either. I do use tools like SEMrush for background. I did a keyword density, and the IT team, that would be the Fortune 500 company, their IT team, told me this. She said, anytime we have a link that opens in a new window, we have hidden text coded into the link for screen readers to pick up that tells them that the link that they came across will open in a new window. It's an accessibility accommodation that we've made. This causes the second highest keyword density to be open, new, and window. Is this affecting SEO? I see Lucas Regalo, a world-renowned ex-rumor pilot from, I'm fairly sure it's Poland, said simply no, and that would be my guess too. Google is used to these boilerplate type and they wouldn't affect the others. They'd be more than likely just simply filtered out. But I'd love to hear from all of the talent we have on board tonight.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't think the.
Okay.
Giselle, you want to go?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Basically, on SEO Quake, as we've using it for almost 2 years. I'm not sure if it's that very reliable in some sense that it's reading the whole web pages and the whole stuff on the coding itself. It's reading everything. So if you check on the SEO Quake, the cloud, the keyword density, and stuff like that, so it gives you a lot of counts, such as when we have a problem, why we have a lot of like count on the read more stuff. So we're just basically, I'm not doubting to that certain application or software. It's just that it's not giving me an accurate numbers of what I have on the content itself of the website. That's just my thought.
Fair enough.
Yep.
The only thing is, I don't think that Cindy was referring to SEO Quake. I think she was more referring to the SEMrush that most of our panelists use a copy of. SEMrush give us a copy for our use, and for that we thank them.
Well, I just wanted to say that SEO, or sorry, content density, whatever the word was, keyword density, doesn't depend on the code. It depends on the actual, like, what people see. So things like, you know, things that are read in the CSS and the HTML, I don't think really, unless they're like alt tags, I don't think they're going to be, I don't think they get contributed to the, unless you guys have any other ideas about that.
I think the only thing I would probably look at as well is where the links, how the links are actually correlated, what the URL parameter is. Is it going through multiple redirects before it gets to destination, even if it's popping in a new window? So it'd be hard to tell without looking at the code itself how that pop-up works or that redirect to outsource. I think that would be the only concern. I don't think it would actually affect them from opening another window to go to another page or a site.
No, it shouldn't, should it? I can't see how it would affect it. Except, I think it's good that there is accessibility consideration into it, and I think that would probably, I'm not so sure whether it would be particularly a big factor, but I do think making sure that your site is accessible to screen readers, it's something that can be tested, and I think it is worth doing that, and I think it's a good practice for doing so. So I assume that the situation is this: when someone opens a link in a new window on a screen reader, then it would state so. And I think that's a good practice from the accessibility point of view, and you can test accessibility of your sites using various tools, and I don't think there's any negatives in doing that. I can only see positives in doing so.
Yes, I agree, Masataki. Not that I'm qualified to make that statement, but I'm fairly sure that Googlebot would filter out any of these. Yes, Chase, you had a question?
Nothing.
Okay. All right, Cindy, I hope that's the answer that you were looking for. I hope it's proved useful. Let's move on to the next. And we love questions about Fortune 500 companies. Okay, here's one from Taran Wadwani. Taran asked a question concerning the PageRank algorithm. I'm not going to read it out because I'm sure we've all read it at one time or another. It looks like the old patent on PageRank. But he said, can anyone please explain this to me in a simple way with an example? Now, I'm not going to read out all of the PageRank patent, but it can be read on the SEO Questions community on Google+. And Masataki Wasa says that we can all write advise the Fortune 500 company in our profile.
Oh, math early in the morning for me. Oh, no. So, if you're looking for kind of a simplification of this, you can do an image search, or you can go to Moz. That will have some of the simplified imagery and some explanations here or there, just as a kind of tip. It's just basically a way to say that for every link out, a portion is divvied up between all the links on the page minus some equity loss. So it's not 100%, but basically for every link that goes out, it's split among the links and passed to each of those pages. Every page receiving a link, it's summed up, and that's essentially given its score. I guess that's roughly kind of the quickest way to think of what PageRank is saying. We'll have to throw in a few links from some sites just to simplify it, which I'll look for right now and add it in. But yeah, that's kind of a real quick way to explain it.
Yeah, the mathematical formula on that post,
Yeah, that's not the nicest mathematical setup. I really don't like it.
No, I mean, it does make sense. It's logical, but obviously it's very simplified. It's a scenario where there are only 4 websites with a starting value of 0.25 value between 0 and 1, and obviously it's far more complicated than that in real life. And the starting value is not. I don't think it's not randomized between 0 and 1. If you create a new page and that that has no links pointing to it, but it has links pointing out from that page, what value does it have?
Yeah.
It's not. It would be a value. It would be a certain value, but how that value is determined to begin with is going to be very difficult to ascertain.
Is this person trying to get exact statistics on how interlinking to other parts of your site works, or are they trying to figure out whether this is a method that should be used or not?
I think the person has come across this post, because it's an explanation. I think the person wants this, the mathematical logical steps that have been explained simplified, because I think his or she is quoting that thing that he or she has found somewhere, and then wants to understand, this mathematical and logical progression in a simpler fashion. That's how I understood the post.
Yeah. Look, sorry to interrupt. Please go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think we can all agree that, linking to other parts of your site is going to pass some value. I don't know if there can be like an exact metric done around it, and I don't know if that's necessary, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'm sure Micah would agree that it was once possible to reverse engineer PageRank, but these days, since Google doesn't even give out PageRank anymore, and even when they were, the last few years that they were giving it out, that they weren't giving out the top two codes. They were rounding up.
Yeah, sometimes I've seen
DSQ.
people use MozRank as kind of a stand-in for the same thing as a way to do that.
They use something called page quality now. If you guys know about that, it's not like something that you can actually plug in, but it's like their new thing. It's in their 160-page article that's so dry that it made me fall asleep several times while I was reading it.
It's good bedtime reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments on this one?
It doesn't fit into my calculator.
Stop using a Mac.
Oh yes, it confuses Macs. Of course it does.
I think part of it is, you know, now I think part of a lot of the big questions a lot of people have, and this kind of puts perspective of this question being a PageRank thing again. A lot of that we used, like Jim, you mentioned, we started out a long time ago talking about PageRank, and we all kind of had a baseline of what that meant and what it does. But I think a couple other people here, Jim, maybe you've said something about change. You know, what's going on with the new types of ranking that can be done versus just PageRank.
Once upon a time, it was interesting. Basically, all you needed to do to have a strong business was a link from a PR10 or a PR9 site. And you had people wandering about with briefcases full of money. Don't laugh. I know one bloke that just literally did that, filled the briefcase full of money, sat across the desk from the lady. You know, if you did have a PR10 link, you could feed that down, propagate it out to any number of sites. I mean, the theory of PageRank does look complicated sitting on the page there, but it's pretty basic. But these days, that's no longer possible. Now, those days are gone. All of you younger people, you missed out. You missed the boat. You were born too late. Anyway, can we move on from this one? Anyway, the advice for Taran, let's just say, don't spend a second thinking about it. PageRank is there, PageRank is used, but it's all internal to Google, and attempting to reverse engineer it without anything to validate it is impossible. So really, it's just something that you've just got to, and I'm sure this is by design by Google. I'm sure that you know, they intended for this to happen, but you know, really, there's no point trying to reverse engineer PageRank. All right, moving on to the next. Here's one from Sam Ma on Google Analytics, still giving him stats from his dead website. I pointed out to him that he may have put the same code from another site onto this site, and that's why this site that's disappeared is still getting impressions recorded. This is what he said. He said, a while back I removed the site from my server. So why does Google Analytics still give me stats for this site? It should be 0, not 1,288 sessions for this week. Please provide some reasonable explanations. I offered the explanation he had the code on the wrong place, but he says, no, that's not the case. Are there any others?
That would have been my guess. But for what it's worth.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know kind of what the landing pages are, because I think Masataki's point about cached results might be interesting to see. Yeah, because that should at least tell you kind of where it's stemming from, and then he should be able to dive in and actually say, oh, okay, is the code on these specific pages? Because that should be the case. I would also check to see about host name. So is it in case it might be a situation where he's removed it, but he has duplicate content between the www version of the site and the non-www. There's some potential quirks that comes up when it comes to that, especially in the basic setup of Google Analytics. You don't necessarily see all your subdomains. So yeah, take a look at the host names, or the referring, or what's the landing page it's hitting. More than likely, you'll probably find it in that, if I had to take a guess.
Maybe the site's still indexed.
Well, yeah, I think that's where it would be the cache results. But 1,288 cache sessions is kind of a large amount. So unless the site was just massive, I'm more likely to pin it on just some duplicate content from the non-www and www.
Maybe it's like a ghost limb. When people unfortunately lose a limb, they can still feel it. So maybe it happens on the internet as well. If you have a site cut off, you can still feel it through through analytics.
Those yeah. That's a
It
cache
could
result.
easily be. The other thing I was thinking of was that people might have scraped his site in the past, and the scraper site that is still up there with that code on it.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised at it being that high of sessions, but especially for in a week's time. But definitely possible too.
Unless it's like all referral spam.
Yeah.
Good point, because there's definitely a lot of that going on inside of almost all of the dashboards, I think. You can still put your filters through, but I don't think the filters are really working at this point. At least they're not for me.
Yeah, it's weird. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't for me.
I mean, you would think that when you actually exclude that root domain from that maybe crawler or the bot that keeps coming into your website, because that throws off the analytics too, because when you start looking at 0 or like 10 seconds on page and they didn't go any further than that, then it basically takes and inflates your overall bounce rate and lowers time on site as well because of those little bots.
Yeah, it's awful. Especially when you have like 100 clients and you have to filter out the traffic for like one new, campaign source for for every single site that's doing the spamming. And it's like if one person starts spamming, 100 different sites or whatever, millions of different sites, then you have to go in and filter out that for 100 different clients every single time a new client gets it,
That's my problem. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. A lot of copy and paste filters to knock it out thereafter.
It'd be nice if they came up with some type of agency thing where we can actually just push those filters in when we see like a large amount of those coming in. Mm-hmm. Basically, just have it go across all of our campaigns that we choose.
Yeah, I've tried different methods like blocking IPs and blocking URLs, but it basically comes down to filtering because they can usually still get through that.
Okay. Dear me. All right. Let's. Sam Marr, I hope that's a useful answer to you, or for you, I should say. Let us move on to the next. We're charging through these tonight, guys. Here's another one from Sam Marr. Does 301 an old site to a new site really work in this case? Well, technically it works. I'd like to hear what the experts here have to say about whether it's of any value. Sam said, recently I purchased an old domain and want to do a redirection of a 301 redirection back to my client's site. Does a 301 redirect really work in this case? And where to put the HTX? Well, I'm sure Sam means what to put in the HTXS file.
301s generally work. So yeah, if you're looking to just redirect the site to another, 301 works. If you're looking for the value, once again, yeah, for the most part, a 301 would work. All of that, of course, can be dependent on what kind of domain he's bought and if it's good or bad and what that might entail. And the htaccess file, I'm not as familiar if he's asking for the 301 redirect where he puts it in there or the actual htaccess file. And both of that might, and what you put in there will vary if it's IIS or Apache. So I'm not quite sure which way he's looking for on that. I don't know if somebody else has a better answer on that, though.
Do you think he's asking if it's going to pass SEO value, or?
Something.
It seems like it, but
So one thing I would probably think about, and I put this in the chat over here, would be, I wonder if the old domain was actually purchased and owned by this client, or if it's something, it's an old domain, but is that actually just a date on an old domain that they're basically trying to do a rebrand, and 301 redirect could hurt their ranking in that case, maybe, depending on what that domain had as the property before, because that history never goes away.
right, exactly. So yeah, it depends on what he's trying to gain out of it.
That actually just recently happened to me, William. I was dealing with a client where they had a website that was actually a pretty popular website before they bought it, apparently. I don't know how they got it, but they were 301 redirecting it back to another website, which wasn't nearly as popular. It's a brand new domain name, never been used before. And I was trying to figure out why they weren't getting very good rankings, and I realized that that other one that they were 301ing from was just this is an arbitrary metric, but it had a huge spam score on Moz, and I'm sure it had a bunch of bad links pointing to it because of the things that I noticed about it. But yeah, you definitely want to check out those domains before you 301.
Hey Chase, just a quick question on that. How long did you How long did it take to identify that 301 was having issues with the domain?
I don't remember. I think it was maybe a couple of weeks. I don't remember how I stumbled upon it, but I was looking at the links pointing to the site, actually, yeah, because I was seeing if I needed to disavow anything, because I was starting to it started to seem like I was doing all the SEO correctly, but I wasn't really getting as many results as I normally get with most sites. And then when I was looking at the links in Webmaster Tools, I saw that that specific website was pointing at it, and I didn't know if that website there was anything wrong with it because it was just an interesting name. So I did some research on that domain, and I realized it was like, this is not a good domain to a 301 into.
Gotcha. That's the fun part about what we do. But the htaccess file, isn't that one also just Apache? Or is that that's not IIS on it? Does an IIS server, Windows Server support htaccess files? Not sure.
I have no idea.
Anyhow.
All right. Let's move on from Sam Ma's question. Have we covered this one, do you think? I'm recording that as a yes. Okay, here's one from Lohit Malvia. Why am I not getting any order on my new website? Lohit said, hi, all experts. Straight away, you have to like this person. He or she said, thanks for looking over my post and responding. I have two websites, leatherhandmadebags.com and vintageandrustics.com. LHB, leather handmade bags was designed and has been online since December 2013. And vintageandrustics.com is online since September 2015. Both have different images for the same products, for most of the same products. I made the vintageandrustic.com site because the previous leather handbag had checkout issues and some basic website errors. And so I made a new website using Shopify so that during the Christmas season I would not lose any sales because of website errors. And then the holiday season arrived and I started AdWords for both websites with the same budget and same keywords. My question, according to my thoughts, the new website is more attractive and has better photos than my previous website, even though my previous website had almost 50 orders, and the newer, better, or the site that I think is better, has not received a single order. Why am I not getting any orders on my new website?
Okay, so Jim, can we go back to the main website domain? And then they said they also had a second. Did I hear a second domain in that as well? The leatherhandmadebags.com and then vintage.
Yeah, leatherhandmadebags.com.
Okay. And then the vintage. I was just kind of pulling that up in SVM Rush while you guys are talking about it.
Yeah. And vintageandrustics.com.
All right, perfect. Pulling those up currently right now.
I mean, just because you think the website's better doesn't mean that the customers think the website's better. And there might be different functions on the website that are more preferred by certain people. So, I mean, I would try to find out what the other site has that you can replicate. Is it, really quick call to actions? Is it a certain type of checkout system going on? Are there people dropping off at certain points of your website? You can check inside your Google Analytics on the behavior flow and see where people are coming in and where they're dropping off. I think that might provide some pretty helpful insight. But there could be, a whole lot of things going on here that it's really hard to just be able to say right off the bat, oh, it's this one specific problem.
Very good points there. I was just kind of going through both the domains in SEMrush, and I did notice that the first one I was looking at, the leatherhandmadebags.com, if you guys pulled up your SEMrush, did a site audit on it, you'd probably see within about April of 2015, it looks like they had taken a pretty substantial drop. Not a lot of drop, but it basically went kind of a flat line into October 15th. So I'm wondering if, basically what they're showing me is the traffic was there, and now the traffic's kind of gone. I'm wondering if that's where the second domain came in. Because the second domain in SEMrush doesn't show any data, so it would make sense that that's probably a brand new domain, like was said in here, right? I wasn't looking at design or anything just yet. I just was looking for traffic and some of the keywords that they were that they're showing up for.
I mean, it could even be their URL. Their URL is leatherhandmadebags.com, and the other one's vintage and rustics. Maybe people are seeing the URL for leather handbags, and they're like, oh, well, this is specific. This is what I'm looking for.
I think my other question would be about duplicate products across each site. So it looks almost like they have the same bags on each site, but I'm not completely sure on that one.
Yeah, I was trying to see if there was an obvious amount of duplicate content, which of course would make the second one, the newer one, which the question thinks is better, perform less well than the established one, because Google will tend to ignore it. But I'm getting lost in very similar looking products here.
Yeah, one thing I'm doing right now is just going through their backpack section, both side by side, and seeing a good similarity to that already. But like you said, it's hard because they're all the same, and they're all leather bags, so it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, once you go into a product, I'm sure that we can do a copy, utilize the URL and Copyscape and see if there's some other product pages that might be coming up.
Mm.
But I would probably go back to that original domain, the leather handbag or handmade bags, because I think that one was the longer living website. That it looks like I believe it would be my simple guess of they've just switched this over because they were actually out of rank or not ranking and didn't know what to do on their other site. They possibly, and then built another website to start to come back during the holiday season.
Mm.
But again, just guessing at that one, just from what I'm seeing.
Okay. I'd suggest that Lohit have a look at the SSL certificate for this site. This particular site would work if it was on a domain there is a wildcard certificate on vintageandrustics.com. But the wildcard certificate is issued to myshopify.com. And so unless somebody is viewing this, I mean, one thing you could do is redirect all of your links to vintageandrustics.myshopify.com. In that case, the certificate would work. but it certainly won't work on the vintageandrustics.com domain. All right. Happy with that? No? Yep. Okay. Let's move on to the next. Nebojsa Jokic has another question for us, and it gives me another opportunity to try and pronounce his name correctly. It's titled "Localized Content is Immune to Duplicate Content Penalty." I think we'd all agree that there's no such thing as a penalty. But anyway, a few days ago I saw a website that is stuffed with duplicate content. Amazon.com. Each post is the same, except for post titles and title tags. The website ranks very well, so I asked the owner, how is that possible? Here is what he said. As far as duplicate content, etc. is concerned, yes, a website that is not localized does not need to be concerned with penalties for duplicate content. But localized content, in other words, content that has a geo modifier on it, does not have to worry. Otherwise, sites like Yelp and Yellow Pages would all be penalized. What is your comment on this? What is the best way to localize content of a WordPress site?
Is it just me who's confused? Because if it's not localized, then why do you have duplicate content? I suppose that means on different sites, on different domains. So they have non-localized materials the same on different domains. Is that what this meant? When I quote, as far as duplicate content, etc. is concerned, yes, a website that is not localized does need to be sorry, my apologies. I read it wrong. But then my point still stands in the sense that if the website is not localized, then why are you duplicating them? If the content is not localized, why is it then duplicated in different places? What I don't get. If you have localized content on the same site or different sites, that makes sense, right? I mean, then you'd probably it would be best to use hreflang and make sure that the equivalents of different geolocations are specified. But so I'm still struggling with the premises of the question.
I mean, even if he is trying to rank for duplicate content, let's just say that he's trying to rank for one city for duplicate content. So, for instance, he has the same page in two different cities, and it's the same content. That, in my opinion, is never a good idea. I mean, if you want to be ranking for different cities or even different areas that are localized because you're next to those areas, they should be as unique as possible. I mean, all content should be unique. I don't know why you would want to duplicate any content unless you're going to be sharing it on social media. So if you're going to be SEOing for different areas that you're next to or different keywords, they should all be unique to that specific query.
Yeah, like Masataki, I'm struggling to actually visualize what this site looks like and what it's doing.
So it could be a service thing, so locksmiths, for example, who have somewhat of a reputation. So they might say locksmith, city A, city B, city 3, city D, and have essentially the same content with the location name just changed in order to target that particular city or particular location.
Oh, I
So
see. Sorry.
that might be a situation. So the content itself is the same. The only things that's different is, let's say, in the title, or saying, I operate in this city. So, what I do, for example, the description of services I offer, the prices, etc., etc., etc. They're all the same, but you have 4 pages for each city.
Yeah.
So it's got
and
instead of London or something. And from that point of view, I would agree totally with Chase that that just changing a location name is not going to get you anywhere. Not unless Google have started to turn a blind eye to this recently. This is something that kept happening, certainly with the work I was doing a few years back, and I spent a lot of time basically taking out this kind of content and putting in some better quality content in order to get the sites to rank. So all I can think of is that this site is in such a peculiar niche that it hasn't got very much competition for it. I don't know. This is I'd like to see what the site was and then make some proper and more educated responses to it, because at the moment it does seem weird to me.
Absolutely, David Redham. I think you nailed it there. It's probably a niche site that has no competitors, and the owner is, acting on false premises, living in a fool's paradise. If he gets a competitor, he'll have to lose.
Yeah, one thing to note though is that comparison of sites like Yelp or Yellow Pages would all be penalized. That's false. Yelp uses the hreflang tag, so basically they may be localizing, and it's you could say it's geo-type landing pages, but they've thrown in the hreflang to tell Google, hey, this is the French website, which is basically the same thing as the English, so it's just one and the same page. And so it's not, you're basically not duplicating it in that situation, because you're basically telling Google, hey, they're the same page. And so that's why it's not, they're not localizing content, they're telling Google it's the same content, just in a different language.
Yeah, if you have content A and content B, and they're both trying to rank for the same keyword, what's going to happen is one of them is going to rank and the other one's not. The thing that you're missing out is that if you want content A, that's what really the preferred page is. So if you're going to be doing a bunch of different duplicate content for local, and you want different rankings, then they have to be unique. The content has to be unique. If it's not unique to that specific query, then you should be pointing canonicals and not expect for all those other pages to rank.
Yeah, good point, guys. I think the only thing I would probably add to that is something I've seen kind of historical a little bit, where basically people actually put together those like landing pages that have all, it's kind of like no index, no follow, but it has all the metros of that state, or and then they basically have a link that goes to a page, like I think one of you guys were saying, where it basically just has that title tag, the content, it's localized content, but it's basically selling a product that really doesn't fit that search query, and looks a little bit more like geo spam, I guess you can say. Because in the beginning, it used to actually rank, and I think Google's done a good job of filtering a lot of that out. The other one would be subdomains. I'm sure we've seen people actually try to look, put LA or Los Angeles .domain.com and try to rank on that, but they're segmenting their data, but the whole layout is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Mikey, you're leaving it.
I'm off to work.
Okay, so thanks for your contribution today, mate.
Yeah, no problem. Take care.
Okay.
See you, Micah.
Yes, look, the one thing I'd say to Nabosia is that the owner of that site, well, first of all, there is no such thing as a duplicate content penalty. I mean, this has been spoken of for literally years. It's simply that if you do have duplicate content, don't expect to rank for it because you'll be filtered out. Google really doesn't care whether you have duplicate content on your site or not. Otherwise, sites like Amazon, which basically are repositories for content. Look at Alibaba. It's full of duplicate content. And probably the most spammed directory site in the world, but also one of the most successful. I think we can move on from this, can we or not?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, thank you, David. So Nabosia, tell me how my pronunciation is going. I'll work on it. All right. The next we have a question from our very own Dave Elliott. Dave is one of our forum heroes that look after the SEO community through SEO Questions community through the week. His answer rate is very high. He asks a question, other than Yoast and all-in-one SEO, do you guys know of any other good WordPress SEO plugins?
Well, I would go along with what Edwin says. I don't actually use Simple 301 redirects, but I do use I think it's called Redirect or Redirection. Does the same thing, and is saves messing about with the hosting or anything. So yeah, I would definitely go along with that. There's also actually, I'm going to stop. I'm going to open up one of my sites and see what I've got in there, because I'm sure I've got something else I find useful for SEO. That way, too many things open here. Please, someone else talk while I'm messing about, or else I'll have to start humming.
David, isn't WordPress SEO an oxymoron?
WordPress SEO? No, not at all. no more than Australian SEO.
I don't play a lot with I don't play a lot with WordPress, but I do with Joomla, and I would probably say a lot of the people that use WordPress in the 301s is with that Yoast tool. I don't know if anybody's had experience with Yoast, but a lot of people get a lot of raves about it. But
yeah, I was curious as to why you guys would use Simple 301 redirects if Yoast has a built-in 301 redirect capability.
That's a very good question. I hadn't realized. I've been using this redirect plugin for yonks.
Yeah,
Yonks.
Yeah,
never mind.
Yeah, you can 301 redirect on pages if it exists. But if you had a previous site and you recreated and you found a page which used to exist, you can't redirect it via Yoast.
Yeah, I think I actually just experienced that problem.
So you would need to use a redirect or use htaccess to redirect that previous URL. So Yoast, if the page exists and you're no longer using it, yeah, you can canonicalize or redirect. However, if it existed before in an old site or on an old URL that used to exist before that you just like came across in your old, like in Webmaster Tools or whatever, then you still need to use either htaccess or I suppose a redirect plugin. But a redirect plugin just inserts into htaccess basically. So it does the same thing, but that's why you can't use Yoast for certain situations.
And that makes sense because even on Joomla, when I just had the same situation where basically I had a straight HTML website and then moved it over into a Joomla site. So of course the internal 301 redirect situate or the plugin or module inside there will not let you do anything that's actually outside of that URL parameter, like an HTML file. So I'd have to do it through the htaccess file. And then you can also go back, like you said, Webmaster Tools in your crawl error reports, your 404s, and then once that, if you did move that site and you were trying to do 301s, you can then go back and look at your 404s and then take a look at what pages are, and then go back and put your redirect in as you find them.
Yeah. Here's a question. It's not about redirects. I'm just going off on a tangent here. Right. So, come across this site. They've got a UK site. They've got a US site. They've got a German site and a Danish site, all on their own domains, all in their own language, etc. So they're all completely separate. They're all original to that language, that kind of thing. Would it be beneficial to, and the structures are the same though, the structures are the same, but would it be beneficial to add in hreflang onto each appropriate page, onto each page in each site to give Googlebot an understanding of this page on this site is the same equivalent on the US domain, this one on the Danish site, this page on the, what do you think? I mean, hreflang is generally incorporated on one site or one domain that has multiple page versions, page languages.
Yeah, cross-domain should work, right? So I can, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, in theory sounds like a good idea, doesn't it?
So if you have
I don't think it does.
and .com, for example, then I would make sure that those are, those have hreflang properly implemented.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What were you saying, Jim? What was your...
Well, the page structure of these sites are different.
No, exactly the same. The structures are 99% the same. So the top line nav is the same, 99% of it's all the same. What I'm saying is I'm not saying every page, I'm saying the main core product pages. Like, so for example, take for example the contact page. That's the contact page, right? So it would be domain/contact us. So you would add into the hreflang saying this is the .co.uk URL and for contact UK. This is the one for obviously the US. This is the contact page for the Danish site. This is the contact page for the German site.
But I think John Mueller did a hangout, and he was talking pretty elaborate on that. I'm gonna have to go back and find that. I was kind of doing a quick search on it, but he went through a whole bunch of different scenarios, because I think that question came up in one of the discussions that he did.
Yeah.
Tim,
Let me know. That'd be cool.
contact page is interesting. Okay, let's say you have a site in the Danish version, right? And that's sort of geographically targeting Denmark.
Yeah.
But people may be submitting queries about the Danish outfit in English. In which case, you probably want to have a ENDK, if that makes sense. You have English page for Denmark. Does that make sense now? So it's not just, okay, you have the contact equivalent, so there's one for ENGBEN US and DK and DE, not just on language basis.
My idea here is, now because this is a distribution, logistics and distribution company. So, for example, if someone in Denmark was even searching in Danish, or not necessarily searching in Danish, but searching, like, for example, distribution center for the US, distribution warehouse for the UK, it wouldn't show them necessarily. What I'm trying to do is say to search engines, these are the pages and those are the specific countries' pages.
Yeah. Okay, so they are then, so in that instance, they're not exactly equivalent, are they? Because if you're saying, okay, if you want distribution point in the US, contact this page. And that's applicable for anyone who wants to contact that US page. It doesn't matter whether they are.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think it's slightly different. But you can always argue that if people are looking for a particular, let's say they're looking just for argument's sake, saying distribution point, logistics, the general search, then you probably want to have the Danish one come up if someone's.
Well, that one will come up. No, that one will come up, but yeah.
And then, but the Danish person actually wants a distribution point in the US, but is putting essentially just distribution point logistics without USA, for example, right?
Yeah.
Then, in that instance, if the contact page, the general information page, has hreflang, then the Danish version would come up. But obviously, we wouldn't know that the intention of the searcher is to find a distribution point in the US. So if someone lands on that, then you'd obviously have some Twitter or somewhere saying these are distribution points that we have across the world, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it should work in that instance.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, but I think one thing that I would consider is that if I would actually create a localized version in both the local language and in English, so you'd have, if there's a contact page that's specific to Germany, for example, I'd have one for DE, for German language, and then I probably would have ENDE, so there's an English version of the contact page for the German distribution point, if that makes sense. Assuming that there are queries that are in English submitted to the German office, the German outfit. Otherwise, people might end up with, okay, they're looking for something and they are actually trying to look for something in English, but then end up, because they're in Germany and they're using google.de, that they end up with the German contact details. which isn't really helpful in their for them. So I have certainly seen that being done, so that they actually have an English equivalent of the page, and there's a specific subset, sort of the language and the geographical limitations being placed.
And Tim, I just put a link in the chat over on the side with basically some of the things like John Mueller mentioned in one of his posts about common mistakes and stuff like that. But at the same time, is a good helpful article. I wish I could answer that question, but I don't know enough about hreflang, so I never had the opportunity to need to use it.
Okay, cool.
All right, is it time to move on from this one?
Yeah, sorry I jumped in on that, but it just came to my mind and I had to get it out.
You did, you bugger.
Go
I've got a few.
ahead, David.
I've got a few more. I've got a few more random thoughts about SEO-related WordPress plugins, as we were talking about 3 hours ago, I believe.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the redirection plugin I use is called Redirection. It's still current, and it's when I selected it, it was the one that I could understand. So that tends to suggest it's quite a nice one for people who are not used to messing about with such things. And then there's a bunch of things that are to do with speed. You know, I would say make sure you've got a cache plugin installed, and then you've got I also tend to put in a CDN, a content delivery network plugin as well. Tend to use Cloudflare because I know how to set it up, and it's free, or at least it's free for sites that don't consume too much bandwidth. I think I'm not sure when the paid version comes along. And then I had a whole bunch of problems with a client site that had loads and loads of images on, and I on the strength of a recommendation, I put in something called BJ Lazy Load, and basically that only pulls in images that are actually on screen or slightly below it as you're scrolling up, and it certainly solved the speed problems that site was undergoing. So in fact, most of these are about speed issues. But the thing is that if you do use Yoast, Yoast tends to with every update that comes, you tend to be able to drop another plugin that you've had for Yonks. So I think the idea of Yoast plus others will probably keep your plugin count down if you're concerned about that. Right, end of.
Cool. And that's a very good comment you made, David. Plugin count, it's a real issue with WordPress sites. People get plugin happy, and a lot of things that they do will slow the site down or break in later versions and need to be continually updated.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's another one. If you're concerned about a plugin causing problems, there's something called, it's something like P3 plugin something profiler, haven't used it for yonks, but that again is a relatively untechy way of checking where the drag is coming from, if you like. Sure, it's P3, but I can't remember what I can't remember what the 3 P's are, but I'm sure a bit of googling or a bit of searching within WordPress will turn that up.
Excellent. All right, we can move on now.
Yep. Yeah, I'll stop getting in the way.
All right. It looks like we've done it again, guys. We've answered all of the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+. And now we move on to our weekly SEO news roundup. There hasn't been much SEO news, obviously, this week. We only have one entry, a post made by Chase Rayner. Be aware that you can make a post on the SEO news community on Google+, and we will discuss it each Thursday night. But yes, I saw this page too, the page that Chase shared, and I thought, how much effort has this man put into producing this page, and how well he's done his job with references and annotations. I just thought it was an absolutely brilliant thing. And it's titled Google Ranking Factors, 260 plus facts and myths, and I think anybody who's an SEO should at least speed read it. What did you think, guys?
Yeah, I still haven't even read through the whole entire thing. I've gotten to, like, I think 70% of it, and it's just like, oh my gosh, there's so much information in there.
On the face of it, it's a brilliant piece of work, and we should all buy him a beer.
Of course, it's no good for Tim Capper. He already knows everything.
No, he's still looking at that, whatever that website he was looking at earlier was.
He's still working on hreflang.
I don't think it was that, no. I think Masataki had it right earlier.
But yes, the article that came out, I read through that mostly, and I also looked at some of the other dissections of that document. I think there was a lot that came out we've already kind of known, which is a lot more with user experience, right? You know, quality of content, can you trust your credit card on this website? You know, certain things like that, I think, kind of hit home still. It's all the same stuff that we've been kind of dealing with since day one of that first document came out. It just got more fine-tuned.
Yep. I see in the chat there we have some comments regarding localization and a suggestion that localization must be very important for porn sites. Some say that there might be different national preferences. I'll tell you one thing I did notice this week, that porn sites are now using the Google Plus share icon. Now I don't know, but look, I don't want my friends and relatives knowing that I'm on Google Plus. Who would use that?
Wait, what is it?
Shameful. Shameful. I don't go on Google Plus either.
All right, guys. I think we're at that stage again. Yes, we are. It's been a great hangout, and if nobody else has anything else to add or anything you'd like to bring up, very pleased to see William Rock with us tonight, all the way from Kansas, and Duchelle de Leon, of course. All right, if you're still watching us, then I thank you very much. What your participation means to us, it makes what we do worthwhile. We thank you for that, and we'll be back at the same time next week